It is a beautiful day in Montgomery, Alabama. I hope you got to see the sunrise this morning. It was absolutely fantastic. This is an exciting day. This is our first day back to chapel for our new fall semester. And I wanted to take this opportunity to thank this staff, this faculty, for the job that you have done in taking care of our students, of getting them registered. It's not over, but you have done a fantastic job. You have worked together well as a team, and I just want to thank each one of you tremendously. Thank you so much. It's also an exciting time because we're kicking off our SMART ministry. As you remember, our QEP, which is related to SACS COC, is starting this semester. You remember when they came on campus, they reviewed it. We went through that process, and they absolutely loved it. And a lot of that credit goes to Dr. Taylor, who is present with us today. We're glad to have her in our audience, of course, with faculty input from Dr. Burleson, Dr. Bird, Dr. Strickland, Dr. Gunnels, Dr. Young, and the whole Turner School of Theology. She put that together, arranged that, wrote that, and I want to thank her for a job well done. It was tremendous, and we thank you for that. This initiative hits home to Amridge University's mission to our Turner School of Theology to prepare men and women for a lifetime of learning, leadership, and service in the kingdom of God. Another exciting initiative this fall is that we will begin Amridge Reads. I don't know if you remember, but the faculty chose a book. There were many suggestions. And the faculty chose a book that our Good Fight of Faith scholars will receive. We will be placing these honorary inserts in these books in honor of them participating. They will receive these books, and they will go through these books. I believe it's 8 chapters a semester, 8 or 9 chapters a semester. And this will help to enhance their growth, the growth of our faculty, to form common bonds amongst these students and our faculty. It hits home strong to our mission, and I'm excited about that. Dr. Burleson, who is our QEP Director of Outreach, is here with us today, and his message is going to center on the first chapter of this book. And I'm glad he's here, and I'm looking forward to his message in just a few minutes.
I want to tell you about Rick. Rick was raised in a children's home. He did not know if he had any biological kin or not. I didn't meet Rick until I was 22 years old. I was working at a sign factory making McDonald's golden arches, and Rick worked along beside me. I was going to school, but trying to pave my way to go through school. Rick came to me one day, and he wanted to go to barber school, but he didn't have the money. I did something very foolish. I went against Solomon's advice in Proverbs, and I co-signed a loan. I should have known better, but my brother said I was a sucker, but I thought I was being a servant. Rick made 3 payments on the $1,500 that we borrowed, and he stopped. So the bank called me, and I knew Brother Guy Barber, the loan officer that called me. He was an elder in the church. And he said, "Ted, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to pay this." So I took a part-time job at the radio station. I used to be a radio announcer. over the next several months, we paid that thing off. And we paid it off. Mr. Barber called me into the bank, and he said, I want to tell you something. Since you've paid this off, from now on, if you need money, just call me, tell me, and I'll put it in your account. It took me a long time to forgive Rick. I mean, we didn't have that kind of money. And I called him one day, and I said, Rick, could you possibly help me out? And he said, look, I've talked to my lawyer, and he said, since our friendship is already affected, it's probably better for us not to have any more contact. So please don't call me back. That was minor compared to what a lot of you have suffered, the pain. But I've discovered, especially by reading the first chapter in this excellent book by Dr. Hambrick, forgiveness is a journey. And forgiveness usually starts with pain. If there's no pain, there's really no need for forgiveness. But forgiveness is like canceling a debt. We owe a debt we can't pay. Jesus paid a debt he didn't owe. So when we forgive, we're paying back the loan that the Lord provided for us. I want to call your attention to a text in Exodus chapter 3 and verse 7. Exodus chapter 3 and verse 7. You know how the children of Israel were suffering. They were making bricks. Their taskmasters were being cruel to them. But in Exodus chapter 3 and verse 7, the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and have given heed to their cry because of their taskmasters, and I am aware of their sufferings. The reason that passage is so significant to me is that it assures us that the Lord sees when we suffer. He knows when we're forgiving and when we're not. He is aware of our sufferings, keenly aware. We might feel like Elijah under the juniper tree, who thinks we're the only ones. But there are a lot of people suffering. And what I tell my students is that ministry is messy. It's not always, in some nice office across a table or a desk. Sometimes it's in the hospital room. Sometimes it's beside an automobile accident. Sometimes it's at the pew of the church building that ministry happens. People are hurt. People are hurting. But one thing I want to urge us not to do is rush people to forgive. I wasn't ready to forgive Rick. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't ready. It took me months, perhaps years. But I had to finally learn that if I was going to be forgiven, I had to forgive. There are two verses in Hebrews chapter 4 I wanted to call your attention to. It's verses 15 and 16 of Hebrews chapter 4. I want to start it in verse 14 and read through verse 16. Hebrews 4, starting in verse 14. Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin. Therefore, let us draw near with confidence to the throne of grace, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. Everyone has a story. Everyone in this room, everyone watching at home, if you're in pajamas, it's time to get ready. But just think about it. We all have a story. But not a lot of people are willing to patiently listen to our story. So part of our job, part of our ministry, part of our service is listening. And that's hard. We all know people. You better not ask them how they're doing, because for 20 minutes they'll tell you how they're doing. You just learn to say, hello, great to see you, and move on. But there are people who have a story, and they need to tell it. I want to tell you about another person other than Rick. Her name was June. June was 68 years old. That used to sound so old. But the Lord willing, October 2nd, it will not sound old at all. June asked me at a church pew if I had time to talk to her, and of course I did. We went into a classroom nearby, and she sat down and she started crying. And she said, I want to tell you what happened to my sister. When she was 10, our uncle started assaulting her and abusing her sexually. She told our mother, but mother said, don't you say that about Uncle Bobby. He's a good man. And so it went on for 3 years until he turned his attention to another niece. And as June told me this, I could see from her eye motions and her facial expressions, it wasn't her sister. It was her. And sometimes loving someone means that you have to confront. And so I said, June, this was about you, wasn't it? And she jerked her head up and she said, how do you know that? I haven't told anyone that in 55 years other than my mother, and she didn't believe me. So we talked a while, and she told me her story, and I'll tell you what, it was ugly. It was ugly. You know, refuse to be shocked. Don't let your mouth fly open when you hear these kind of things. And so I said, June, have you forgiven your uncle? She said, oh, he's been dead for years, but I forgave him. I didn't forgive him for his sake. I forgave him for my sake, because the bitterness was eating me alive. Sometimes we have to forgive people because the bitterness will eat us alive. Ask your friend to tell their story. And listen. Listen to it. Without judgment. Listen to it when they tell you the nastiest, meanest stuff you've ever heard in your life. Because the Lord has a plan for them. And you may be the link that connects them with Jesus. Especially if it is someone really close to you that hurts you. Dr. Hambrick says in his book, I love the way he uses analogies. He uses analogies about forgiveness. And he said, when someone close hurts you, think gunpowder. Think gunpowder. It explodes. And just think about a violated trust. It cuts deep. It hurts deeply for a long, long time. I want to conclude my remarks by looking at Matthew chapter 3, verses 3 through 5. Matthew chapter 7, verses 3 through 5. These are the words of Jesus. Matthew 7, starting at verse 3. Why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye? Do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, and behold, the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Brooks has a speck of sawdust in his eye, and he needs me to help him get it out. But I have this power pole sticking out of my eye. Now I can see that sawdust really, really well with this one eye that doesn't have a power pole sticking out of it. But I can't help Brooks until I solve my own issues. So don't go judging anyone. We're not in the judging business. Let's leave that to the Lord. We're in the caregiving business. We're in the reconciliation business. We're in the forgiving business.